Welcome to NTD News. I'm Kevin Hogan. Here are today's top stories. Rescuers not giving up hope in the search for survivors of last week's condo collapse in Florida. We hear from one crew member, and what do local residents have to say? Arizona's Republican-controlled legislature has voted to block Democrat Secretary of State Katie Hobbs from participating in state election lawsuits. Hobbs is a local vocal critic of the Republican-backed election audit in Maricopa County. There's a big drop in the number of migrant children at the largest emergency shelter in the U.S. That's while 2 states pledged to send law enforcement to the southern border. And a New Hampshire law blocks teaching the idea that the United States is inherently racist or sexist. The new law is modeled after a now rescinded executive order by former President Trump. "11 people are confirmed dead from last week's condo collapse in South Florida. 150 are still missing. Rescue crews are still going strong and holding out hope. NTD's Jessica Beatty reports.
Rescue crews in day 6 of search efforts for survivors of last week's partial condo collapse in Florida. As of Tuesday morning, the number of confirmed deaths is 11. The weather making search efforts more difficult.
There's definitely a concern with the rain and now the debris and possibly sliding, so it's an extremely dangerous situation.
No survivors have been found since shortly after the collapse, but rescue crews aren't letting up.
This goes on 24/7. This is not stopping. This hasn't stopped.
Dr. Howard Lieberman of Miami's Search and Rescue Task Force.
Everyone says you can't give up hope. As a trauma surgeon, I've on occasion counted out a patient, didn't think they were going to survive, and they've proven me wrong. They survived.
150 people are still unaccounted for. One local is waiting for news about his friend.
Edgar was a friend of mine from law school. Him and his wife and daughters lived in the building. Still hopeful. They haven't been confirmed dead, but they haven't been confirmed found either.
The collapse still fresh in the minds of neighbors.
I went to the front of the building, and a policeman was going by, sweating bullets. And I said, "What happened?" He said, "The building fell." And I went, "It's right there." He goes, "No, look in the back. It's gone."
Some are worried it could happen again.
Of course, we're scared of another collapse.
Surfside Mayor Charles Burkett says those fears are not unjustified.
Something was very, very wrong in that building. So as a result, I wanted to see those people given a choice. Is it going to fall down too? I think the odds are low, but you know what? You don't take chances like that.
A 2018 engineers report found concrete deterioration in the underground parking garage and damage in a slab beneath the pool deck. A lawyer who works with the Condo Association said the issues are typical for older buildings in the area, and it did not alarm board members, all of whom lived in the tower with their families.
We need to figure out what were all the factors that went into making this building fall, and we need to figure out exactly what happened.
The engineering firm said Saturday that roof repairs were underway at the time of the collapse, but concrete restoration had not yet started. The cause of the collapse is under investigation. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Iranian-backed militia groups reportedly launched rocket attacks against U.S. troops in Syria. This comes shortly after U.S. airstrikes in the region.
Spokesman for U.S. operations in the region, Colonel Wayne Moroto, reported rocket attacks against U.S. troops in Syria. He tweets, at approximately 7:44 p.m. local time, U.S. forces in Syria were attacked by multiple rockets. There are no injuries and damage is being assessed. Moroto says they returned fire against the rocket launching positions in self-defense. The Jerusalem Post reports that Iranian-backed militia groups claimed responsibility for firing the rockets. The attacks came hours after U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken defended U.S. airstrikes near the border between Iraq and Syria. Blinken told reporters that the airstrikes were to limit the risk of escalation and send a clear message of deterrence. Those strikes took place Sunday against facilities suspected of housing Iranian-backed militants. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby released a statement saying the facilities were used to conduct drone attacks against U.S. soldiers. He says, as demonstrated by this evening's strikes, President Biden has been clear that he will act to protect U.S. personnel. Iraq's military issued a condemnation of the U.S. strikes, calling them a blatant and unacceptable violation of Iraqi sovereignty and national security. Iraqi militia groups vowed to retaliate for the U.S. attacks. Kirby says U.S. troops are stationed in Iraq under the invitation of the Iraqi government. He says that U.S. troops have the right to defend themselves under international law, and President Biden has directed the military to take further action to disrupt and deter attacks.
Republican lawmakers in Arizona have voted to remove powers from the Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs. They say she made politically motivated attacks and they've crossed the line. But she says they're retaliating against her because they don't like how the state's election turned out. Here's more.
Arizona's Republican-controlled legislature voted to strip power from Democrat Secretary of State Katie Hobbs. The measure blocks Hobbs from representing the state in election-related lawsuits, granting that power instead to the Attorney General. The bill also bars Hobbs from using public funds to hire lawyers for election-related issues and limits her to one full-time legal advisor. Hobbs is a vocal critic of the Maricopa County election audit initiated by the Arizona Senate. Her office released a statement saying that Republicans are retaliating against her because they didn't like the result of the presidential election in Arizona. Democrat State Senator Lisa Artondo says the move is politically motivated and called it a power grab. Republicans say that Hobbs crossed the line when she filed bar complaints against the Arizona Attorney General and the other top attorneys in his office. Republican State Senator Vince Leach tells the Arizona Mirror, "I don't know what's more political than the Secretary of State submitting bar charges against the entire upper echelon of the AG's office." Katie Connor is a spokeswoman for Republican Attorney General Mark Brnovich. She told the Arizona Mirror the bill is needed to defend the state's election laws and eliminate confusion over who represents the state in election lawsuits. The bill now heads to Governor Doug Ducey.
Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr took aim at the Department of Justice's lawsuit against the state's election law. He told Fox News the move is constitutionally wrong and politically motivated. Attorney General Merrick Garland announced the lawsuit on Friday, alleging the Georgia elections law is a violation of the Federal Voting Rights Act's protection for minority voters. The legal action takes aim at the Election Integrity Act of 2021. It drew praise from backers of elections integrity measures and protests from those who claim the bill accounts to voter suppression. Carr says the law expands access to voting and makes elections more secure and transparent. Teaching the ideas of systemic racism and sexism is now illegal in New Hampshire. That comes after a 2-year budget bill is voted into law in the state. Here are the details.
New Hampshire is leveling a new ban on teaching the idea that members of a certain race or sex are inherently racist or sexist. Governor Chris Sununu signed the 2-year bill into law last Friday, calling it a win for every citizen and family in this state. That's after the state's legislature voted to pass the measure, part of a $13.5 billion budget bill. The law includes the former House Bill 544, which outlines a ban on divisive concepts related to sex and race in state-funded programs and contracts. The text of the law reads, "Nothing in this chapter shall be construed to prohibit discussing, as part of a larger course of academic instruction, the divisive concepts in an objective manner and without endorsement." The law still seeks to uphold the principles of academic freedom and freedom of speech. It allows teachers, government agencies, and contractors to objectively present these concepts and promote racial, cultural, or ethnic diversity. The package also contains an education freedom account program, allowing families to use state aid for private and home schooling. The new law is largely modeled after former President Trump's now revoked executive order. That order prohibits promoting individuals as inherently oppressive due to their race or gender, or any other form of racial or gender stereotyping or scapegoating. According to an online survey published last week by Harvard University and the Harris Poll, about 2/3 of Americans believe that schools should not teach children that the United States is a structurally racist nation dominated by white supremacy.
A new education bill is passing the Arizona House. If it becomes law, students will be learning about people who fled communism. A state lawmaker who fled communism himself explains why it's important.
It was the fall of Saigon in 1975, and 12-year-old Quan Nguyen boarded a U.S. Air Force cargo jet with nothing but a small bag of clothing. 46 years later, he is now a member of the Arizona House. When the House debated a bill that would mandate schools to teach the tragedy of communism, one of Nguyen's Democratic colleagues claimed that white nationalism is a greater threat than communism.
So let me tell you something about white nationalism. White nationalism didn't drown 250,000 Vietnamese at the South China Sea. The communists did. White nationalism did not execute 86,000 South Vietnamese at the fall of Saigon. Communists did. White nationalism did not put me here. Communism did.
The education bill passed the State House last Friday. It requires public schools to teach how communism and totalitarianism conflict with American principles. And teachers have to share stories of people who fled communism. The state has to come up with new K-12 civic education standards. They have to center around the original intent of the country's founding documents and teach Americans the responsibility of defending and preserving liberty.
I lost most of my cousins, my family members, due to communism. If we don't stand up to teach communism to our children, we'll lose this country. So, sir, don't mock me.
Republican lawmaker Judy Burgess says the new civic standards will prepare students to be civically responsible and knowledgeable adults. And another Republican lawmaker, Jake Hoffman, says the reality is that one of the greatest threats facing the globe today is communism and totalitarianism. The Arizona Senate will soon be looking at the bill.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott has made some changes to the list of counties in his state on his border disaster declaration. That's as the number of migrant minors in the Biden administration's biggest emergency shelter has dropped by over 40%. A top Biden official touted progress at the Fort Bliss Army Base in El Paso housing unaccompanied minors who cross the border. Since mid-June, the number of migrant children housed there has dropped 40%. HHS Secretary Javier Becerra said that 790 boys are still there, and the last girl left on Monday. All of the girls were either sent to licensed facilities or reunited with relatives in the U.S. or a sponsor like a family friend. The conditions at the facility had drawn criticism from child welfare advocates. In mid-June, there were about 2,000 children there, and in May, a high of 4,800 children. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has revised his list of counties that are part of his disaster declaration. He has removed 11 counties and added 5 to bring the total down to 28. These counties have agreed to partner with the state on efforts to secure the border, according to Abbott. Political observers tell the Border Report that Abbott's move to remove the counties that aren't on board with his plans to build a border wall may mean the governor can now proceed with his plans. Abbott declared a disaster along the border to combat the influx of unlawful immigrants and to protect landowners from trespassers and the damage they cause to their property. What's more, 2 states have pledged to send law enforcement officers to the southern border. South Dakota and Iowa now join 3 other states in efforts to help Texas and Arizona. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem said Monday that 50 National Guard troops will be sent to the southern border. Part of the surge down at the U.S.-Mexico border are Venezuelans, some of whom are fleeing the socialist dictatorship. A record number of them have already been arrested at the border. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more on the surge.
Escaping Venezuela, says this man running to the Rio Grande, preparing to illegally cross into the U.S. A record number of Venezuelans have already done it this year, over 17,000. Among them are people who say they're running away from Venezuela's socialist dictator, Nicolás Maduro.
I think Americans are sympathetic to what has happened in Venezuela, but the reality is that many Venezuelans have already found safe haven in other countries in the region.
Jessica Vaughn is the director of policy studies at Center for Immigration Studies, a Washington, D.C.-based research institute. They describe themselves as being pro-immigrant but supporters of low immigration. According to AP, many of these Venezuelans crossing the border illegally this year have lived in other South American countries for years. In Vaughn's view, this isn't so much about the Maduro regime. This is about the Biden administration's lenient border policies.
There's a name for it in countries south of our border. They call it La Invitación from Biden, and that means if they can make it to the United States, they are not going to be made to leave. They're going to be allowed to enter. The other reason this is such a problem is because this illegal migration is run by criminal smuggling organizations. And the more money they make off of human smuggling, the worse it is for civil society in the countries in which they operate. And that is one of the root causes for the problems that are causing people to flee.
Vaughn says Harris has done nothing to curb illegal immigration. Rather, the administration's border policies have only made it worse. The VP did say earlier this month that the administration will form a task force to crack down on human smuggling. But from the beginning, they've removed Trump-era policies credited with stemming the flow. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
The House has passed 2 bipartisan bills aimed at boosting U.S. competitiveness as the Chinese regime makes its own push to advance technology. The bills seek to bolster research and development programs in the United States. One bill is aimed at scientific development, and the other is aimed at energy. The measures would improve funding for the National Science Foundation and Department of Energy's Office of Science by about 7% per year. The bills would also increase STEM education and professional development. There's also a provision that blocks applicants from joining talent programs in places like China, North Korea, Russia, and Iran. The rule encompasses popular programs from China that have come under suspicion over threats to national security. A new survey found that the United States ranks last in media trust out of 46 nations. It also found that many Americans are turning away from news or avoiding it altogether following the 2020 election. Here are the details.
The annual digital news report from the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism found that trust in media increased overall across the world, but not in the United States. According to the report, the U.S. ranks last in media trust at 29%, among 92,000 news consumers surveyed in 46 countries. The country with the highest levels of overall trust is Finland at 65%. Americans' interest in the news is also declining. The report said interest in news has fallen sharply in the United States following the election of President Biden, especially with right-leaning groups. The report found that overall Americans' interest in the news has dropped by about 11 percentage points, down to 55%. Poynter, a left-leaning journalism school, theorized the lack of trust is caused, at least in part, by the extreme political polarization in the U.S. But some media critics pointed to the lack of introspection on behalf of corporate-owned media outlets. Longtime journalist and legacy media critic Glenn Greenwald said in a tweet that the findings aren't surprising. He wrote, "Most amazing is that the corporate sector of the U.S. media is failing in every respect, financially, culturally, collapsing trust. Any other industry failing like this would engage in self-critique, asking why. They never do." Another longtime reporter, Mike Glenn of the Washington Times, wrote, "There was some media introspection for a few moments after Trump's election, but that quickly disappeared. Last month's Nielsen ratings show CNN's viewership down nearly 70% since January. MSNBC lost the second most viewers, down by 49%.
Ukraine and the U.S. begin military exercises involving more than 30 countries. The exercises are taking place in the Black Sea and in southern Ukraine. Russia opposes the drills. Russia's defense ministry says it's monitoring the movements of international ships participating in the exercises. Seabreeze 2021 will last 2 weeks and involve about 5,000 military personnel from NATO and other allies and around 30 ships and 40 aircraft. The region is full of tension because of territorial disputes and other actions between Russia and Ukraine. The drills also follow a rise in tensions between NATO and Moscow. Russia said last week it fired warning shots and dropped bombs in the path of a British warship in the Black Sea, but Britain rejects Russia's account of the incident. Coming up, a major e-cigarette maker slammed with a $40 million fine. The settlement comes after North Carolina took Juul to court to demand it stop marketing to minors. Most millennials are living paycheck to paycheck, according to a survey, but it's not necessarily because they earn less. So what's behind it? A hurricane hunter's aircraft flew out to investigate the brewing storm along the coastlines of Georgia and South Carolina. The aircraft is part of the U.S. military's Air Force Reserve. The aircraft departed Keesler Air Force Base in Mississippi. A tweet from hurricane hunters referred to the storm system as Tropical Depression 4 and said the crew was on its way to investigate before the storm makes landfall. The National Hurricane Center later upgraded the storm's name to Tropical Storm Danny. That makes it the 4th named storm of this year's Atlantic hurricane season. But Danny weakened back to a tropical depression after making landfall on South Carolina Monday. Danny brought heavy rains to the southeast as the storm steadily spins down. The heaviest rains were seen in Alabama. North Carolina won a major victory against e-cigarette maker Juul in court Monday. Juul will have to pay out $40 million and change its business practices because of State Attorney General Josh Stein's lawsuit. North Carolina is the first state in the nation to bring a lawsuit against Juul for advertising its nicotine products to minors. From now on, Juul will have to use a barcode age verification system, similar to how alcohol is sold, so minors can't buy the vaping products. Juul is also banned from selling flavors that appeal to teenagers like mint or mango without authorization from the FDA. And on top of that, the e-cigarette maker will stop marketing strategies designed to appeal to underage consumers. The money from the settlement will be used to help young people addicted to vaping and will be spread over 6 years. The state is also suing 8 other e-cigarette companies, but the Juul case is the first to go before a judge. A survey shows that 70% of millennials live paycheck to paycheck, but that's not necessarily because they earn less than other generations. NTD's Evelyn Lee has more.
A new survey by Payments.com and Lending Club shows that 70% of millennials live paycheck to paycheck. In contrast, only half of Americans and only 40% of baby boomers live paycheck to paycheck. Financial expert Steve Siebold has an explanation for that.
The older generations realize that the government, the U.S. government, is not going to take care of you.
Millennials turn 25 to 40 this year, so age and family status also factor in greatly. According to the report, millennials are at important life stages, starting families or taking on first major purchases. That includes homes or cars, but at the same time, their careers might be less advanced. And the 2008 financial crisis that many graduated into doesn't help. And then the pandemic gave them a second recession and housing crisis.
I think that the millennials and everyone for that matter should understand that the U.S. government is in trillions and trillions of dollars in debt.
The report says the results might reflect millennials' wants and needs more than their wealth levels. 60% of millennial respondents who earn 6 digits a year said they live paycheck to paycheck. According to accountant Thomas Corley, many fall victim to so-called lifestyle creep. That's when you increase your standard of living to match your increased income. But Siebold says it's important to forego the urge to spend your money right away.
Money today invested is worth more than money tomorrow invested because of things like compound interest, especially if you're young. If you're a millennial, you're young, and you've got time for that money to compound over many years.
Jonathan Howard, a financial planner at Secure Advisors, says that lifestyle creep is a direct result of one bad habit, not paying attention. He says that maintaining a budget forces you to pay attention, and it's better to start early.
Understand things like compound interest. Learn basic investing strategies. So you start to invest your money, because the best thing you have as a millennial is time.
Corley says that instant gratification is wired into human nature, so saving money is a habit that needs to form over time. He says that putting off what you want today for something to fall back on in the future will help. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
A mini Statue of Liberty is on its way to the United States from France. The 10-foot-tall bronze statue is expected to reach Ellis Island on July 1st, just in time for Independence Day. It will then be moved to the French ambassador's residence in Washington, D.C. The statue weighs nearly 1,000 pounds and was made from Auguste Bartholdi's original 1878 plaster model. Before making the overseas journey, it had been displayed at a Paris museum since 2011. Just ahead, California Democrats are trying to alter laws governing recall elections. Some say the changes could help the current California governor keep power. And California's fire season is looming as drought conditions worsen. So one environmental land manager is putting 4-legged lawnmowers to work to help prevent future blazes. Stay tuned to find out more.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here, and if you're on Medicare, this is important. You're now entitled to eliminate co-pays and get dental care, dentures, eyeglasses, prescription coverage, in-home aids, unlimited transportation, and home-delivered meals, all at no additional cost. Plus, your zip code may have coverage with the Give Back benefit that adds money back to your Social Security check every month.
I call to get dental, transportation, meals, and the Give Back benefit. With this virus situation, I called to get everything I'm entitled to. I couldn't believe I was missing out on so many benefits.
With the uncertainty of the virus, you need to get everything you're entitled to. Millions of people have trusted the Medicare coverage helpline. You can too. Call now. It's free.
Call 1-800-764-1930. That's 1-800-764-1930 now.
Trends may be fleeting, but values are timeless. We now bring you this new clothing brand with classic design and luxurious comfort. It's our way of sharing hope and inspiration from the world of Shen Yun. We bring you Shen Yun Dancer. Wear it with honor.
California lawmakers are planning to change the state's recall election laws again. Some of them are trying to pass a bill that may help the current governor, Gavin Newsom, survive the coming recall election. Here's NTD's Cynthia Tsai with more.
California is seeking to change its recall rules and regulations ahead of Governor Gavin Newsom's recall. California's state legislature introduced Assembly Bill 152 back in February. On Monday, June 28th, the Senate Budget and Fiscal Review Committee held a hearing for the bill. Committee members voted 12 in support and 4 against.
This bill clarifies how the 2021 gubernatorial recall election will be conducted and appropriates $35 million to the general fund to the Secretary of State to support statewide and local costs related to administering the election.
Assembly Bill 152 essentially speeds up the recall election process. The bill will allow lawmakers to bypass the legislative review process as long as they have secured money in the county to pay for the elections. However, some California legislators have expressed concern regarding this bill.
Are there going to be assurances to the public, or what kind of assurances are we going to be able to give the public that no contracts will go to firms with political campaign ties, like we experienced in the previous few months, where I guess Team Biden's organization got a substantial amount of money for voter outreach? I know there were lawsuits filed.
State Assembly member Kevin Kiley said on Twitter, Gavin Newsom and his enablers are changing the rules of the recall in the middle of the game. They cheat in plain sight and wonder why people lack trust in our elections. This is the second time California legislators have tried to change election rules. In 2018, California's elected officials also changed election laws during Senator Josh Newman's recall. Now, Assembly Bill 152 is headed back to the Senate floor for a vote, and a date for the upcoming special election is still being decided. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
A video shows a Southern California wildfire burning next to a stretch of Interstate 5 called the Grapevine on Monday. The Kern County's fire department says the Shell fire has around 50% containment, close to 2,000 acres, despite high temperatures. The National Weather Agency forecasts hot temperatures on Monday and Tuesday in California, prompting a magenta or level 4 alert, a very high risk for the entire population, including Siskiyou County, which is near the Oregon border. A dry winter plus a hot summer are making California's wildfire season look daunting. But an innovative land manager has an interesting and natural solution: goats. NTD's Jason Blair has the story.
As California's annual fire season looms, one environmental land manager is taking his four-legged fire prevention team to the hills.
Goats are very much like a fire without the flame of a fire. They can bring all the critical elements of the plants that are here back to the soils and regenerate the native plants.
Goat clearing aims to establish a natural fire break so that if a wildfire does occur, it will stop before reaching the nearby community.
By treating these open spaces, this is one community, this is one hill that when the fires are going off in the backcountry and the winds are blowing into or facing, the embers come in, this won't light up. And that's how fires jump fire lines. That's how they go into communities.
Gonzalez says using goats to clear flammable dead grass is not a new idea. But as authorities and the public become more aware of the environmental benefits, the popularity and demand have grown.
The popularity of goats has really increased. Over the years, people now equate goats to doing fire fuel breaks.
Goats naturally remove invasive plants, and their droppings fertilize the soil without reseeding, which prevents the area from reproducing. Gonzalez has been in the goat business for 23 years. He currently has 1,600 goats on the hills throughout the state of California. The cost to hire goats averages from $800 to $1,000 per acre. Jason Blair, NTD News, California.
Firefighters remind people to be safe as 4th of July comes up. This is especially so in California, where setting off illegal fireworks may lead to fire hazards. Here's NTD's Eileen Ng with more.
The East Bay Hills behind me is a high fire hazard area. With 4th of July around the corner, California residents are reminded to not use illegal fireworks as it faces another high fire season.
Well, with 4th of July coming up, it's a national holiday. Everybody loves to celebrate and have a good time, but we need to celebrate and have a good time responsibly. We need to make sure that we're not using fireworks or being around fireworks, and make sure we report all the fireworks that we do see.
The Oakland Fire Department reminds people that fireworks can be dangerous. Fireworks can potentially harm people nearby, burn down houses, or start a wildfire.
I understand it's exciting. We don't have a lot of professional fireworks going on this year, but please leave it to the professionals. It's extremely dangerous, and we don't want anybody to get hurt.
In California, fireworks are under strict guidelines and are generally illegal throughout the state. Recently, San Mateo County Sheriff's investigators identified and arrested Sam San and Jennifer Nguyen for selling illegal fireworks. Investigators seized approximately 15,000 pounds of fireworks and $1 million in cash. California's firefighters and parks management agencies continue to prepare for the upcoming holiday weekend. They urge everyone to be safe and mindful as we celebrate July 4th. Eileen Ng, NTD News, California.
AAA says more than 43 million Americans will hit the road this 4th of July weekend, and if you're one of them, it might be tough to find gas. A shortage of tank truck drivers, along with the pandemic-related travel surge, is causing supply chain bottlenecks and shortages. A number of areas are already reporting gas shortages, including the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. The trade group, National Tank Truck Carriers, reports somewhere between 20 to 25% of tank trucks are sitting idle across the country. Industry insiders say there were driver shortages before the pandemic, but the lockdowns forced many drivers to retire or change jobs. In addition to a gas shortage, prices at the pump are the highest they have been since 2014. The national average is now $3.10 per gallon. Up next, a tragic fire in China. 18 children at a martial arts school lost their lives, with 16 more injured. Eighteen children tragically lost their lives in a midnight fire in China. Locked in their dorm rooms, they weren't able to escape. Local authorities are now working to block information about the accident from spreading online.
At least 18 students are dead and 16 more injured following a fire inside a martial arts school in central China. Flames ignited inside Zhengxing International Fight Club Training Center Friday night, located in Changzhou City inside Henan Province. According to Chinese media outlet Xinhua Net, over 30 people were rescued. The victims range between 7 and 16 years old. The doors leading to their dorm rooms were reported locked at night when the fire broke out.
Fire broke out at around 2. Police were called at around 3. There was not even one adult. Why did they lock the door? Isn't it murder? My son told me kids often feel hungry due to their many physical activities. The school was afraid that the kids would go grab food by themselves at night, so they locked the doors.
Though the martial arts school was registered with the state, the building was reportedly not up to safety code required for a training facility. That's according to the local fire department. One father expressed relief that his son was among the survivors, but explained he doesn't know the specifics of what happened. In a text message to Reuters, he wrote, "All information is being blocked." After the incident, Beijing dismissed the local Communist Party secretary as well as the mayor from their posts. 3 suspects have been taken into custody, including the founder of the school. Grieving parents were blocked from seeing their children's remains until the next day after protests erupted. But authorities separated the parents from each other, an apparent effort to block the spread of information.
They isolated families that lost their kids. Each family is staying in a separate hotel. Some are now in the hospital, some are in hotels. We don't know the details.
Authorities are now forcing them to sign compensation agreements. Information related to the fire has been removed from social media.
And despite the tragedy, Chinese state media seem to have their eyes on events elsewhere. The collapse of a Florida condo. Chinese media largely ignored the fire, but reported greatly on the crumbled U.S. building. Many believe this has to do with the Communist Party's efforts to boost its image ahead of its 100th anniversary. NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us more.
Caged pigeons block roads, armed police, canine units, and locals on patrol. That's the scene in Beijing. The city is just a couple of days away from the Communist Party's 100th anniversary celebration on July 1st. Video spotted over 220 buses packed with soldiers driving into the celebration venue, Beijing National Stadium, more commonly known as the Bird's Nest for its appearance. Witnesses say these soldiers dress in camouflage and carry guns. The Bird's Nest is now illuminated from the inside out. Residents speculate these soldiers serve as security during the Chinese Communist Party's or CCP's birthday party. A fireworks ceremony rehearsal lit up the sky last Tuesday. According to Radio Free Asia, the test run cost Chinese taxpayers almost $11 million. But showered by the fleeting sparkles, Beijing's atmosphere is getting more tense. Troops that usually perform what's called stability maintenance or patrolling city streets for lawbreakers are now gathering near the heart of the city. Their numbers focus within a few miles of Beijing's Tiananmen Square, the center of the city. Among those troops, soldiers armed with guns, uniformed police, plainclothes police, canine dog units, and even aunties from surrounding residential communities. These older women, often called aunties in Asian culture, wear red armbands. They are tasked with monitoring the flow of residents in and out of their communities, something they believe is part of protecting Party Central. City regulations are also tightening, and it's even affecting local mail deliveries. China's Ministry of Public Security and Ministry of State Security co-signed a regulation with China Post, the country's mail service. It requires all packages headed to Beijing to be X-rayed. After the screening, each box gets a scan approval sticker. What's more, these parcels must go through a second scan before delivery. If they don't pass, they don't get delivered. Humans aren't the only ones feeling the effects of the ceremony preparation. Some animals are too. Home-raised pigeons are also subject to new restrictions. In one Beijing district, pigeon owners are banned from letting their birds fly outdoors for 2 weeks straight, from mid-June to July 1st. In 8 other districts, the pigeons can only fly after 3 p.m. Balloons are also prohibited. The only exceptions are birds and balloons to be used for the ceremony. On top of that, nearby roads are blocked ahead of the anniversary. Beijing's police bureau announced a roadblock in the vicinity of the venue for 3 days. All nearby tourist attractions are also temporarily closed. A retired professor from the CCP Central Party School, who fled China years ago, commented on the news via Twitter, saying the CCP is celebrating its 100th year, but it's making it look like an imminent catastrophe. Another post poses a question, asking, why does the CCP need so many external enemies? Adding, because if these external enemies cease to exist, the people would discover it's actually the CCP that is the enemy of the people.
Still to come, Dutch painter Rembrandt's Night Watch is displayed in its original format for the first time in more than 300 years. The Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam reproduced pieces slashed from the canvas with the help of AI. Find out more in just a moment.
If you're like most of us, you're probably getting fed up with the nonsense that's going on in the banking system. Did you know that top U.S. banks have recently amended their depositor terms and conditions to include the words bank failure and what's required of you in 24 hours if, or should I say when, it happens? Don't get blindsided by your bank. Call GSI Exchange today to pick up your complimentary copy of the Bank Failure Survival Guide at 866-424-2382. We'll also send you the required format to file with your bank within 24 hours of their failure, which is now required by the top banks to avoid freezing of your funds. Yes, the top banks can now freeze your money. The world is in a strange place, and banks are constantly changing the rules. So stay on top of the current events that really matter by calling GSI Exchange and requesting your free guide at 866-424-2382.
90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. This is a battle between truth and deceit. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
With Shepherd Lock, you can unlock your door by touching the deadbolt. Shepherd also boosts your home security by proactively freezing in place if anyone ever tries to tamper with your lock or break down your door. We also make it easy to manage keys without hiding them under the mat. Easily create temporary keys for house guests, neighbors, or anyone else. Installation takes less than 5 minutes. Visit shepherdlock.com to buy your Shepherd Lock today, and for a limited time, enjoy 10% off.
For the first time in 300 years, the missing edges of Rembrandt's famed painting, The Night Watch, have been temporarily restored by artificial intelligence. Now viewers can appreciate the masterpiece in its original form as the artist intended.
Visitors rushed to the Dutch National Museum just to catch a glimpse of The Night Watch, the brilliant 1642 masterpiece by Rembrandt. The painting was not in its original size until the museum restored the cropped parts with artificial intelligence recently.
So about 300 years ago, the Night Watch was moved from its original place, the clubhouse of the Civic Guards, to the town hall where it had to fit in between 2 doors. It didn't fit, so the movers took scissors and cut on all sides strips off. The largest strip was about 60 centimeters, so quite a bit.
The painting portrays the captain of an Amsterdam city militia ordering his men into action. 3 restored figures once missing on the left are undetailed onlookers, not members of the militia. The museum director says that is the effect Rembrandt intended.
In a way, Rembrandt makes it's a circle. We stand here, they stand on the side, and you really get drawn into the painting by them.
While those strips were never found, another artist of the time preserved a copy. The AI software is trained to use the high-resolution scan of the original and the painted copy as reference for Rembrandt's style and colors. The museum's senior scientist says the result is good enough, as AI successfully translates the copy into a Rembrandt.
The computer even learns to hallucinate cracks, because that's part of the Night Watch. So we don't really care about this, the middle part, because we already have the Night Watch, and that's definitely better than what the computer can imagine. But now we can use these parts on the left, right, top, and bottom, where we don't know what the answer is, and then combine the two.
The hanging missing parts overlap the original work without touching it. The central figure now appears more off-center, making the work more dynamic. A drummer on the far right has also been reconstructed. His marching onto the scene prompts a dog to bark.
Wimbledon Grand Slam tennis is back after a year out because of the pandemic. It comes with changes for all, as the queues for tickets are gone and players stay in London hotels. But one thing is the same as ever: rain is forecast. NTD's Neil Woodrow is at the All England Club.
Here at the Wimbledon Grand Slam event in southwest London, fans are excited, looking forward to some top tennis action and cheering on their favourites, with fingers crossed for the weather. On the opening Monday of the 134th Wimbledon Championships, grey clouds hang over the All England Club. In a year of changes, one Wimbledon tradition remains intact, with rain delaying play on the outside courts. The Championships 2021 are one of the government's large-scale pilot events. Centre Court starts at 50% capacity, but will embrace 100% come the finals. But COVID-19 protocols mean this year's tournament will look and feel a little different. Proof of vaccination status must be shown, and there will be no iconic queue for daily entry. Henman Hill will be sparsely populated, and fans will not be bumping into famous players strolling to the grounds from plush rentals in the village. They stay instead in central London hotels this year to minimise risks. but precautions have not helped British #1 Johanna Konta. Disappointingly for her and her fans, she was forced to withdraw on the eve of the tournament and starts a 10-day quarantine. Konta's withdrawal is a huge blow to the 30-year-old who won the Nottingham title in the build-up to Wimbledon. Despite the weather, those that have made the trip are full of expectation.
So excited, we can't believe we're here. We've been looking forward to it for so long.
I know.
And
yeah, we managed to get it as like a group of mates. So there's how many? 5, 6 of us here today. So yeah, really excited.
This gentleman plays tennis 3 times a week at his club.
You know, obviously I can't relate so much to them as I'm just a club player, but I mean it's just wonderful to see them, you know, moving around and hitting the ball as well as they do. It's just they're entertainers, you know, and that's what we come here to see, is to be entertained. So we're looking forward to it. Yeah.
In the opening game on centre court, British teenager Jack Draper had his hands full in his Grand Slam debut. He got the crowd going, though, as he took the opening set against defending champion Novak Djokovic. Draper's fearless hitting stunned Djokovic at first, but the champ soon took control and won through in 4 sets. For British fans, all eyes will be on Andy Murray once again, giving him all the support they can muster. The former world #1 has not played a singles match at the All England club since a quarter-final defeat in 2017. The investment in Raze over centre court and court #1 in recent years means the unpredictable weather is less likely to affect the schedule. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, Wimbledon, London.
You got to see the new Spokesbaby for Gerber. Meet 4-month-old Zane Cahin of Florida. Gerber chose little Zane as the winner of this year's photo contest. The company says that means he'll be the official taste tester for new baby food products. It's also giving him a title Chief Growing Officer, which is a first for Gerber. What's more, the prize includes $25,000 in cash. The first Gerber baby who won the contest in 1928, Ann Turner Cook, is now 94 years old. Let's turn our attention to health now and look at 10 reasons to include kiwifruit in your diet. This ancient Chinese berry is packed with health benefits.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. People are attracted to kiwifruit because of its brilliant green color and exotic taste. But the real uniqueness of kiwifruit comes from its health benefits. Here are top 10 health benefits, interesting facts, and tips on how to use this amazing power food. Number 1, great for skin. Kiwis are a good source of vitamin E, an antioxidant known to protect skin from degeneration. Number 2, helps to manage blood pressure. Kiwi's high level of potassium helps to keep our electrolytes in balance by counteracting the effects of sodium. Number 3, protects from DNA damage. A study by Collins, Horsker and Houghton showed that the unique combination of antioxidants in kiwifruit helps to protect the cell DNA from oxidative damage. Some experts conclude this can help to prevent cancer. Number 4, boosts your immunity. Kiwi's high vitamin C content, along with other antioxidant compounds, have been proven to boost the immune system. Number 5, a smart carb for weight loss. Kiwi's low glycemic index and high fiber content means it will not create a strong insulin rush like other fruits with high sugar contents, so the body will not respond by storing fat. Number 6, improves digestive health. Kiwis are a great source of fiber. This prevents constipation and other intestinal problems. Number 7, helps to clean out toxins. The fuzzy fiber of kiwi helps bind and move toxins from your intestinal tract. Number 8, helps to fight heart disease. Eating 2 to 3 kiwis a day has been shown to reduce the potential of blood clotting. Many individuals take aspirin to reduce blood clotting, but this causes many side effects including inflammation and intestinal bleeding. Kiwifruit has the same anti-clotting benefits with no side effects. Number 9, suitable for diabetics. Kiwi is in the low category for glycemic index, meaning it does not raise your blood sugar quickly. It has a glycemic load of 4, which means it is safer for diabetics. And number 10, create alkaline balance. Kiwi is the most alkaline category for fruits, meaning it has a rich supply of minerals to replace the excess of acidic foods most individuals consume. A few of the benefits of a properly acid-alkaline balanced body are youthful skin, deeper sleep, abundant physical energy, fewer colds, less arthritis, and reduced osteoporosis. So not only do kiwis look and taste great, but kids often love them because they are so different from most fruits. They're also on the list of foods that are generally safer from a lot of pesticide residues. For nutritional balance, it is always good to eat a variety of foods. Each food has its own unique qualities and powers. The trouble with most people's diet is that we eat such a limited number of foods. It increases our chances of not getting enough of the important nutrients. Thanks for watching.
And that's all for now. Catch us tonight at 6:30 Eastern. I'm Kevin Hogan.
We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.